Hey everyone, let's talk about keys and chords. So in this episode, you're going to learn which chords to expect in a song that is in a particular key, and also if you're writing a song in a particular key, which chords you have at your disposal. Let's dive into it. So first of all, a key is based on a scale. So the key of C major is based on the C major scale. So how is it not just exactly the same thing as the C major scale? Well, because in addition to the scale, the key also involves a set of chords which go along with the notes of the scale because they're based on those notes. So let's talk about how chords work. First, let's look at what a C major chord looks like. It consists of the notes C, E, and G. C is the root note, the E is a major third above it, and the G is a perfect fifth above the C. Now, let's look at a C minor chord. It contains the notes C, E flat, and G. See what the difference is compared to the C major chord? It's that the middle note is a semitone lower, an E flat instead of an E. That makes the interval from the root note a minor third. And the remaining interval from the E flat to G is a major third, while the interval in the major chord between E and G is a minor third. So the way both types of chords are constructed is known as stacking thirds. Both chords are basically two different types of thirds stacked on top of each other. As a teaser, I can tell you that 7 chords are just an extension of that idea, just adding another third on top. If you're a guitar player, you might be confused since you tend to use 5 or even 6 strings when playing a C major chord. Fair enough, let's take a look at what those notes are. First, you have an open E string. Then you're on the first fret of the B string, which is a C note. Next, you have an open G string. On the D string, you're on the second fret, which is an E note. And finally, on the A string, you're on the third fret, which is a C note. See, all the notes you're playing are C, E, and G. 2 C's an octave apart, 2 E's an octave apart, and 1 G. Sometimes we have another G in the bass, on the third fret of the low E string. But again, just another G and not a different note. This is true of any major or minor chord you play on the guitar. It's always just 3 notes, usually duplicated in different octaves. Okay, so now that we know how major and minor chords are constructed, let's get back to looking at the C major scale. The scale includes the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So let's build our first chord. We'll do this by starting on the first degree of the scale, C, then skipping to the third, E, then skipping to the fifth, G. Okay, so that's one chord. Now what happens if we shift everything up one scale degree? Going from C to D, from E to F, and from G to A. Let's continue. Next, we get E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, and B, D, F. So let's look at the chords we've created and figure out what they are. First, we have C, E, G. As we saw earlier in the video, this is a C major chord, consisting of a root, major third, and a fifth. Let's look at the next chord, D, F, A. If we look at the intervals, we see that we have a root, that's D, minor third, F, and perfect fifth, A. That's the formula for minor chords, so this is a D minor chord. The next chord is E, G, B. This is an E minor chord. Root E, minor third G, and fifth B. Next up, there's F, A, C. That's an F major chord with F, the root, A, major third, and C, fifth. After that, we have G, B, D. Again, a major chord, G major. Shifting one more step, we get A, C, E, which is a A minor chord. Finally, if we shift one more time, we get B, D, F. That's not a major chord. And it's not minor either. Let's look at the intervals. From B to D, we have a minor third, and from D to F, also a minor third. What sorcery is this, you ask? It's called a diminished chord. They're not used much in pop, but in classical music and jazz, you'll run into them every now and then. Anyway, we're done walking up the C major scale, and we constructed a chord off each scale degree. Let's take a closer look at them. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. Those are the chords that belong to the key of C major. So to make things a bit less abstract, let's look at what we've actually done here. We have the C major scale, right? So this is all the white keys in this case. So what we've done is we've placed our 3 fingers on every other key, starting with the C. And that gave us a C major chord. Then we shifted our fingers up 1 step, D minor, 1 more step, E minor, 1 more step, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. And the thing is, we can do this with any scale. So for instance, we can do the G major scale. It goes like this. So starting on the G, we get G major, move up 1 step, A minor, move up another step, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and finally F sharp diminished. All right, that's all for today. I'm going to leave as an exercise for the viewer to try to figure out which chords belong to all the other keys. And next time we're going to talk more about chords and transposition.